Peace everyone, Unmask here, and welcome back to the self-portrait live stream. Today I am going to be doing my arm down here a little bit. There's just a tiny piece showing, and then I'm going to start working on the shadows of my shirt. So that is going to be the game plan for today. Hope everyone is having a fantastic weekend so far. I'm having a lovely weekend. The weather is sorta kind of nice. Yesterday it was nice and warm, a bit of sun, but then it like turned into a thunderstorm. So, you know, you get what you can out of the good weather. But fortunately, the rain held off for most of the day. So my wife and I, we went out for a nice walk, and I bought her a new pair of shoes, finally. But not without plenty of pain beforehand going to the shoe store. But we got a little hungry while we were out, and we're doing this diet for the month of May. 100% whole foods, no sugar, no oil, no flour, no processed food, nothing. But fortunately, smoothie places are really common, and you like legitimate smoothie places. Like people, there. I know in the United States there's this place called Jamba Juice, but Jamba Juice uses like processed juice, and then they throw in some fresh ingredients. But this place and the places here in Poland, 100%, like you see them cut the orange, squeeze out the juice. You see them put the bananas in. You see all of the 100% whole food smoothie, and it's just delicious. Hey there, Amit, Chrissy, Lindy, Jalma. I got your name now. Thank you for sending me the pronunciation. Good to see all of you guys. But yeah, overall, yesterday was a good day. We've been going through all the Karate Kid movies. So we've seen the first three, and then last night we watched the next Karate Kid. With Julie-san, the girl, and that one wasn't that bad. It had a better. I felt like that one had a better character arc than all the previous ones. So the original trilogy of the Karate Kid, I felt like the next Karate Kid had a bit better character arc overall, even though it was a little, cliche, but it was still good. I still enjoyed it. Hey there, Jonas, good to see you. Sergio, you as well. Yeah, Chrissy, I wish I could have been there for your live stream, but it's like 2 o'clock in my morning, and unlike you, I sleep at night. I don't even like really staying up past midnight. I would prefer if I had, I don't know, maybe that's the next thing I need to work on as far as like self-discipline. Like I need better like daily time management. I think that's probably like the worst discipline that I have, because ideally I think I'd want to be asleep by 11. So like TV is off at 10:30, and I am trying to fall asleep or something like that. And then I think I'd prefer to get up between 5 and 6. I think that's where I'd like to be. And so maybe I should try an entire month, and I just like really, really like make it not easy. So like an entire month I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and just to see how that month goes, and see if I can't kind of get into a little bit better of a routine. And I'm talking 5 o'clock even on the weekends. Even though, funny thing is, I woke up earlier today than I've woken up like all this past week. So yeah. What does arc mean? I, oh, character arc. What it means is so a good, generally speaking, a good story, when you have the protagonist is also known as the main character. It's the character that you are meant to, like, the audience is supposed to build kind of a relationship with, and you're supposed to, like, connect with that character. And usually in a story, you have a character that you're introduced to. They are presented with a problem and they fail to overcome the problem. And the only way that they can overcome the problem is if they change themselves. Like it's character building. So they have to, like, maybe they're arrogant, and so they have to become humble. Something along those lines. A good example would be like the Thor movie. Thor, he wanted to, be he needed to learn to be humble before he could get his hammer. That was a character arc. And so in movies, like, here's a good example of doing a story extremely bad. If you look at the new Star Wars movies, you have Rey, which is she's kind of the protagonist because she develops into, like, a main character, but you don't care about her because she has no character arc in the entire in the two movies that she's played in. She has zero character arc. She's what you would call a Mary Sue. She's just, for no explanation at all that's given in the movies, which is where it matters. She is apparently able to do everything for no reason. And it makes it really boring as a character. It's like, well, here's another problem. She's just going to overcome it because apparently in the movie she's able to do whatever is necessary for her to overcome the obstacle. And there's no development. Another good example would be like the Rocky movies. Where, like, Rocky, he's always, like, preparing for the fight, and those iconic kind of what are they called? Oh, geez. What are they called? They're montages. Those iconic montages in Rocky movies where he's always, like, working out and he's getting better. That is character development, where you have the arc. You have a person that knows they're not, capable of overcoming their obstacle, so they work on it, and you see them work on it in the movie. But the new Star Wars movies don't have that at all, which makes the movies awful. Anyways, so that's what I mean by character arc, and that's what other people mean by character arc. I try to take advantage of day, not enough hours in the day to paint and draw. Yeah, I feel you. I I think, sometimes I feel more productive in the mornings than any other time, as long as it's like a task that I kind of have a desire to do. Like, live streams in the morning, they're not something that I'm ready for. Morning live streams are not my ideal way to begin the day. Actually, I prefer evening live streams, but it's not fun to do the evening live streams when my wife is gone all the time, and she's only here in the evening, so I don't really want to do that. So there's just this kind of, constant struggle of balance that I need to maintain in order to not have the live streams in the evening. Sometimes I'll do the personal classes in the evening with my students, and that's fine. Those are okay, but because I don't do them as often as I do live streaming. I actually had a number of people email me. So a couple live streams ago, if you happen to miss it, I had mentioned that a student spot had opened up on my Patreon. And the student spot is private art lessons that we do over Google Hangout, just me and you. And I said during the live stream that probably by the end of this live stream, the spot's going to not be available. And I was right. It wasn't like 5 minutes after I mentioned it that it was no longer available. But I've had several people email me asking me if there was more spots available or something like that. And I wish that currently I could open up more spots, but in the future, I definitely plan on opening up more spots. So I will let everyone know when that happens, because it will probably be in the fall. That's what I'm thinking. I guess it just really depends on how things work out with buying a house. I guess a lot of stuff depends on probably the next like 2 months, how things change. My sister is, I have got her like super excited to buy a house and start fixing houses up and renting them out. And her husband is on board as well. He's actually an electrician, so it it definitely, you know, benefits us. And he's owned a house for a long time that he spent a lot of time learning how to fix things and all of that. So he's got a lot of experience doing home repairs. But if we could just, you know, get that ball rolling as a team, yeah, we're gonna be in good shape. And depending on how much time that takes me, like how much time it takes away from like doing my YouTube stuff, kind of determines how many more students I am willing to take on. Because I was talking to my wife about it last night too, the student stuff, and I was telling her, yeah, I was like, you know, I might just kind of focus a little bit more on individual, like private art lessons. And what I would probably end up doing is like I'll try to take on like 15 students at a time, which means I would be live streaming less on YouTube. I told her I'd probably, you know, I'd probably minimize it, maybe down to like one or two a month live streams. But I'd also try to work on like pre-recorded tutorial type stuff. All of that, just, you know, a bunch of different ideas. Yeah, I'd love your guys' input on it as well. You know, I'm just kind of rambling on about different ideas that have come up. You know, I'm trying to maximize not only the amount of people that I can help, you know, teach art, but also kind of maximize my income potential, I guess. You know, I never started my channel with any intention of. I never started my channel with the intention of like turning it into a livelihood, making it really any money from it ever. It just kind of happened, and every like moderate change that I've made to my channel over the years has always been like it's always been like maybe one step closer to kind of maximizing the potential of it, while still holding true to myself. Obviously I still don't do this, you know, I still don't do this stuff for the money. But now that it's become like my career, I have to make more business-like decisions, I guess. But I don't know. I'm just kind of I'm talking a little incoherently, so I'll just apologize now for that. Oh, hey there, Brenda and Sue. Good to see you. Or, oh, Sue, I forgot. It's Gila. It's Gila, right? Yeah. I would miss the live streams if you cut them back, but you have to do what works for you. But I vote for more live streams. I really do like the live stream. So odds are, maybe if I just did one a week, it's hard for me to even like gauge what that feels like anymore since I've been doing a live stream every single day this month, and so I kind of lose track of what it feels like to just do one every Monday. But I could probably just keep up with the weekly, and then have students. It's more of the like pre-recorded tutorials that I struggle to make, because there's some art channels that just like throw out whatever garbage they record, and then they give it a name with a tutorial in it, and it's just you can hardly even call it a tutorial. When I do my tutorials anymore, I like to have a very thorough explanation. I want to get them to the 10-minute mark so they do better on YouTube. But sometimes my explanations are so succinct that I can't even pretend to stretch it out to 10 minutes. But I usually spend like 3 or 4 days writing a script for my tutorials so that I can break down whatever it is that I want to teach in the most coherent and comprehensive way possible. But the problem is, those tutorials, they take a lot of creativity, actually. And I spend a lot of extra time sometimes just running the idea around in my head over and over again so that I can, put out the best possible video that I can. Yeah, I've gotten really far away from like doing any video editing. I was going to edit the, I don't know if you can see it, but my ballerina picture that I completed over on Patreon as a tutorial. I really wanted to edit that into a narrated tutorial, but I lost footage somehow. I don't know how I lost footage, but the part where I colored the face, the neck, and the hair was all missing. And I was like, man, I really wanted to make it into, one of those shorter kind of like, just an edited down tutorial, maybe 10 minutes long of just, going through the stages and kind of explaining the thought process for each part. And, but I didn't, I don't know what happened to the footage, but it was gone and nothing I can do about it, so. I was also thinking, another thing that I was thinking about was, sometimes it's easier for me to just sit and draw without talking. Well, actually, let me just rephrase that. It's always easier for me to sit and draw without talking. But what I was considering doing was recording, like just recording this part where I'm coloring something in, and then turning it into a live stream by being able to just talk while the video is playing, similar, exactly how I did with the baby raccoon, with the bonus footage, because I really liked that. I liked that I could just kind of sit there and talk. I could watch the video with you guys. I could interact with the chat, and I could do all that, but my pace of drawing never stopped, because sometimes sometimes I just completely lose track of what I'm doing. So yeah, I was also considering doing doing more videos like that, because sometimes it is nice to just blast my music in my headphones and completely get lost in a piece of work, and then just upload it later. So many different things. I can't even keep track. I guess I'm gonna start shading my shirt here. I'm just gonna use a bit of black to start putting in where some of the darker folds of the shirt are, like real lightly. Any tips on trying to draw a live portrait? Well, what I would say, like the best way to get good at that is to do practice sketches of poses. So what's important when doing a live sketch of like a live model is that you work quickly. So that means you have to learn how to make each kind of pencil stroke or charcoal stroke count, so that you're kind of capturing as much important information as possible, because the most important information is going to be capturing the naturalness of the pose. And what you can do is there's YouTube channels that have like live models that will sit in a particular pose for, let's say, like 5 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, things like that. And that there's also websites that have pictures that will like pop up for 5 minutes or 1 minute or something like that. There's tons of resources. And what I would suggest is, just get a nice sketchbook with whatever medium you're going to use, whether it's charcoal or pencil, and practice capturing those poses as quickly as possible. To start to learn what lines are most important to really start capturing like the essence of the pose. Usually you might start with like a center line, or maybe there's a really nice line that like the side of the body, or maybe it's a side pose and you have like the arch of the back, something like that. So start looking for the big lines and train your eyes to start seeing those big shapes, so that you can just sketch them in real quickly. And start small. You don't have to draw real big. So you do these exercises over and over again, and start just drawing small. You could probably fit 4 on a page or something like that, and then just move on to the next one. And if you don't get it perfect, don't erase. Don't even use an eraser during these practice. Just commit yourself to any particular line and just keep sketching until time is up, and then move on to the next pose and just keep doing it over and over again. And you'll, if you do that, if you were to do that for just 20 minutes a day for the next week, you would see a really big improvement, not only in your accuracy in capturing the pose, but also in just your technique and speed. So that's a really easy way to start getting better before you, do live poses. Oh, hey there, Tessa. Good to see you again. Gosh, there's a lot of wrinkles to put in here. I think the best part about this stage is that the accuracy doesn't matter. These wrinkles, they can kind of show up anywhere, so not being precise is perfectly fine, and they'll still end up looking quite natural. Folds in clothing was one of the hardest things to learn, especially when it comes to creating your own original clothing. Like, if you're into designing characters and designing clothes and stuff like that, learning how to create your own folds and make the clothes look more natural, that's one of the tough things to learn. But what you can do to start learning that faster is learn the different types of folds, because every single fold has a category. And just learning the different ways cloth folds and moves is really helpful to learning how to create your own clothing. If you guys have any other questions for me, feel free to ask away. I will appreciate it. I think by the end of today, my shirt should be looking much more realistic, though I'm just kind of sketching in the shadows for now. Once I add in a little bit of the gray highlight, the shirt will have more three-dimensional, a much more three-dimensional look to it. I think I'll just work on kind of the base shadows and a bit of the highlighting on the shirt. And then tomorrow, I think I'll just try to finish up the background to like 100%. So get the background just 100% completely, just never need to touch it again kind of stage. And then maybe come back to the shirt. Because I'll probably have to spend a couple days on the shirt really hammering out all the subtle details of the shadows and darkening the colors and smoothing it all out. And I still have to do the buttons here also. Do I miss my hair? My wife just asked me that yesterday, and the reason she asked me is because when we were out walking, we inevitably saw somebody with locks because they're so popular in Poland. That wasn't sarcasm, by the way. That was just my normal voice. And my answer is no. Actually, I don't miss them at all. I don't think about it. And she asked me if I think I'd ever want to regrow them out, and I said no. You know what? I don't think so. Hairstyles. If you get, getting locks and having them in your hair for a long time is really, it's really, really damaging to your scalp and to your hair just in general, because when you get them maintained, they're always pulling at the root of the hair. So when you lose hairs with locks, you're not just breaking hairs. You're pulling them right out of your scalp, which can cause permanent damage and permanent hair loss. If you were to find a spot on your head and you just constantly pull the hairs out from there all the time, because some people have those psychological disorders where they do such things. They pull their hair out. Some people even eat their own hair. It's like it's called pica, not like the Pokemon, but yeah, and you can cause permanent hair loss by doing that. And the same is true with having locks. And I had my locks for like 5 years or so, and I can still tell that my hair is a little bit thin in comparison to what it should be. So I don't think that I'm going to go through that again. And the same thing happens when you do like cornrows or like tight braids and you leave them in for a long time. If you've never gotten cornrows from a salon, try it once. Not only is it like extremely painful to have on your head, but you take it out after about a week, or however long you can stand having it in, and then wash your hair, and you will have just handfuls and handfuls of hair falling out because of it. And so doing it repeatedly over and over again will cause permanent hair loss. And I'm not looking to make my hair any thinner. It's actually kind of a blessing that my hair is a little bit thinner now, though, because my hair was so insanely thick. It was always just a pain to deal with, and I actually kind of like it exactly the way that it is. It's very light on my head. And the funny thing is, my hair just seems so straight. I don't know what is going on. My wife was like, "Where's all your curls at?" And to be honest with you, I feel like they're gone. Just I have really curly hair. I do. I swear it. And the fact that my hair is like laying flat and it's all going in the same direction totally blows my mind, because it's never done that in my entire life. So maybe having locks for that long scared my hair straight. Because yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I have pictures. I have some pictures on my Facebook page of my afro that I had before I got locks put in, and yeah, there's no denying my hair is curly. But usually at the length that I have it now, because I mean, it's at least three, like 3 centimeters long, and there's like no indication of a curl anywhere. Any tips for a portrait in white on black paper? So you're only using the color white? Really, you just have to get used to working opposite, to be honest with you. Because when you're doing white on black, you're not drawing in the shadows, you're drawing in the highlights. So usually when you're going white, or when you're going black on white paper, you find the darkest spots and you fill those in so that you have something to kind of evaluate your values at. And so with white on black paper, you're going to do the opposite. So you find the brightest spots and you let those be your kind of guide for evaluating the values or the amount of white pencil you need to add in order to get the mid-range values. What is better for drawing flowers, polychromos or Prismacolor? Honestly, I don't think it's going to make a difference which set of pencils you use. Just, you know, you just got to draw, you just got to color accurately. Because there's people that draw flowers in both pencils. I've done flowers in just Prismacolor and in just Polychromos, and to be honest with you, nothing changes between the two pencils. I don't think that there's any particular medium that one pencil would be better than the other. All that extra black, adding in those shadows definitely makes the shirt come to life much more. Adds, even though it's just the shadows, it certainly adds a whole new layer of depth to my shirt. I think after I add another layer of this color on the stripe here, maybe I'll grab a mid, like a medium gray, and put in some of the lighter highlighted areas of the shirt. So let's see here. I have this gray. What is this? This is 902. Yeah, I think this is a good gray to do it. So let's see. There's a little bit of a. Oh yeah, that's a good gray. It's not too bright. Not too bright. So I'll just put in a few of the highlights. And I think these highlights will show up more once I darken, or I add another layer of the lighter gray color of the stripes. I get a bit scared using black, but I use it when I have to. I think, if you don't burnish with black, I think it's a really safe color to use in just about in any case. Even when it comes to skin. Even when it comes to skin, you can use black. You just have to make sure that you don't leave it black, or you don't add too much that makes it black. So it's fine if it's like a really, really dark brown, but if you layer it down too heavy and then it just looks black, then I think you're gonna have a little bit of trouble there. I'm still being pretty loose with this color here, but you can see the way that it just lightens up those colors just enough to really start to bring in more of a fold, more of a ripple in the clothing there. It really it's so simple. It just adds just that right amount of light to get it to look like a highlight. It's still a bit rough, but I think once I blend it out and kind of smooth out the roughness, it will look really natural. Do I know how to fix that? Do you print the reference photo in order to find the colors? No, in order to find the colors, I just use Photoshop. And so I have the reference photo opened on my computer screen, which is sitting right in front of me. And I use the eyedropper tool to select particular colors, and then I isolate them. You can do it with a free program. I actually have a tutorial of how to do it with the program called Pixelar. If you search on my channel for a video called "How to Color Everything: A Guide to Creating an Effective Color Palette," I show you in that video step by step how to pull out your colors and well, make an effective color palette. I have my color palette for this entire drawing, background and everything. So now what I'm doing is I'm just using those colors. So I have like maybe 15-ish colors. And then later when I start doing more of the polishing the polishing stage of the drawing, I will incorporate some different like glazing colors so that I can make things, so I can color match even more accurately, especially in the transition of colors, because the transition of colors always incorporates a new color when working with colored pencils anyway. You almost can't ever have the perfect two colors. Usually there's always a third color in there that's like mixing, that gives you a new color. Yeah, sometimes the monitor does make a difference, but I actually had my wife print out. This is the first time that I'm going to try this, but I do have printouts of the reference photo, and I even did some of the colors for the skin tone. So I had her print these out at work, and so I'm going to use these later on for the polishing stage to help me match the colors a bit better. But that's actually the first time that I've ever used a printout for a reference photo. I've always like looked off my iPad or looked off my computer monitor, and I've spent a lot of time calibrating my computer monitor, making sure that it's as accurate as possible. But if you have different types of screen, my screen is LED, so it doesn't emit like a bright light. It's very low light. And so it has a nice flat color to it. It's very matte. It's not shiny. That's a good way. Having a screen like that is a good way to avoid losing the color in the shadows, because the glass screens tend to just appear darker overall with more contrast. So yeah, definitely the screen is not the most ideal. I think printing it out is going to be the most ideal, and I'm interested to see if my work improves simply because I have it printed out. So I am curious about that. Because even though my screen is really well calibrated and I do my best to like look off of it, it doesn't always show me the same color. Because if I'm a little bit high on the screen, it brightens up. If I'm lower on the screen, it darkens. So if I have to happen to be like my head down like this and I look up, everything is darker. So I'd have to make sure I'm always looking at it at exactly the same angle. Otherwise, I'm going to start seeing the colors a little bit lighter, or I'm going to start seeing them a little bit darker. But if I have it printed out, I get to see the color, tangibly in my hand. And so I can kind of just line it up with my drawing and see it even more accurately. So I'm curious to see how much of a benefit I have from it, since I've never done it before. Oh, thank you, Dimitra. I'm glad that you learn a lot from me. That's really good to hear. Yeah, if you know as many questions as you have, you can just keep on asking. There's no question limit, at least not that I'm aware of, because I have yet to ever have a live stream where I have too many questions. You guys are slacking with the questions. You gotta you gotta get your money's worth, even though this is free. Yeah, I like these kind of questions, because I also learn from you guys when you guys ask questions, and sometimes there's questions I don't have answers for, and it makes me think about things, and so I end up learning because if you ask me a question I don't have an answer to, then well later on I'm gonna have to find an answer, come up with an answer. So you guys give me a lot of new ideas and a lot of insight on things. So I appreciate the questions. Sincerely, I do. If you can print out if you can print out your reference photo, that's great. But like I showed you on this one, on this printout, if you can isolate your colors, then you'll have, your isolated color palette. And then what you can do is like, you can take your pencils and be like, oh, I want to try to match this color here. And so I'll take my colored pencil and be like, oh, let me see how close I can get it. Okay, well, I can see that this color is a little bit lighter than what I need it. So, maybe if I mix a little bit of this color in there, this adds a little bit of that red, and there we go. So now you can see that those colors are like perfectly matched, and it took these two colors. So if I just kind of work these colors back and forth, it's not too difficult to get the color that I'm looking for. And if I want to get that color, then maybe I'll have to grab another pencil or something like that. And I have this gray here. Okay, well, I know that gray is a little bit too blue, so maybe I'll go with something a little bit like this, and maybe mix a little bit of this color in there. Okay, well, that's pretty close. Maybe just a touch of the brown, a little bit of brown. And then I switch back to this pencil. So now you can see that, okay, I have these isolated colors. Now I can kind of figure out the pencil recipes in order to make those colors. So that's also something that I would recommend. So if you do your color palettes and print them out, I think you'll find yourself being able to match your colors a lot better. What was I doing? What pencil do I need? I think I need this one here. Yeah. Forgot where I was working. Now I'm really burnishing the shirt and trying to get the shirt really nice and smooth. And then I can use some solvent to smooth it even more. And I can then kind of glaze over it with a bit of black and a bit of light gray to bring those highlights and shadows back in a bit more, because I layered it down, and I have this color here that's maybe a little bit too light, but I can always glaze that gray back over top of that area to get it looking the way that I want it. And then once I have the form of the shirt filled out really, really well, and I essentially have the entire thing burnished, what I'll do after that, and after I kind of get the shadows and highlights all worked out, is I'll grab colors like, I'll grab this bluish color here, and I have all my background colors over here still. I have this green, so what I'll do is in the shadows and stuff is I'll start adding some greens into the shadows, and then in the highlighted areas I have my red. I have a couple different reds actually. I have this red here, which I used for the stripe in the back, and so I'll incorporate that complementary color scheme that I was going for in the background. So I'll add some subtle greens to the shadow side of my shirt, and I'll add some reds towards the highlighted area, but just subtly, so that I can bring out the those complementary tones that I want for the overall image. But at this stage, I can just kind of ignore them, and then bring them out later on. I need to sharpen this pencil. Give me 1 second. Probably gonna need to buy another replacement blade for my pencil sharpener here soon. They're super cheap. They're only like £5 or something like that. It's worth it when you get, 2 or 3 months out of the blade, and you get like the sharpest possible pencils and pastel pencils. This sharpens the Carbothello and the Faber-Castell Pitt pencils really, really well, just amazingly well. And if you've ever tried sharpening pastel pencils, you know that unless you have a really good sharpener, they are a pain, so much of a pain to sharpen. Will I remove the halo effect? Yes. There's only a few bits where there's a little bit of a halo around the shirt, and that's why tomorrow I'm going to get the background 100% complete. So now that I have the shirt filled in, I know exactly where the line is, because there was always a little bit of wiggle room there with the actual line art. It kind of depended on where I filled in the shirt, and I didn't want to overdo the background and then struggle with the edge of the shirt. So I left the background a little incomplete because I knew that I was going to have to work around everything one last time to really get those clean, sharp lines. I think the worst part right here is on my neck. The separation of the background and my neck, there's this white line in there that I will completely get rid of once I rework the background. All of that will be gone. If you're wondering why I use the manual sharpener, it's because the luminance pencils don't fit in my electric pencil sharpener. But the luminance pencils the Caran d'Ache pencils in general are very easy to sharpen. Even that that manual sharpener sharpens my Geneve pastel pencils, which is the Caran d'Ache pastel pencils, which, you know what, they are feeling so neglected. I've barely, I haven't used them in a single project really, other than the review, and they are just so neglected. I think after I finish this month of live streaming, I think the first thing I'm going to do is my gosh darn color chart for my pastel pencils. Yeah. That is what I need to do. I don't know what I'm going to do with my Derwent pastel pencils. Those things are worthless. I'd give them away. I would honestly give my Derwent pastel pencil set away if it wasn't going to cost so much in shipping. So if somebody wants a brand new set of Derwent pastel pencils, if you pay for the shipping, they're yours. I don't want anything to do with them. A waste of money. Alright, where's the other color? This is the color, right? Yeah. You can start to see how much better this part of the shirt is compared to this part of the shirt, because now you can see like it's like really well burnished. The colors are on there really well, whereas everywhere else they're just kind of a nice base layer, but it still shows like a lot of the paper texture. I need Prismacolor white alternative. An alternative to the Prismacolor white would be the Luminance white. Why do you need an alternative to that white? I don't have any issues with it showing up or anything. Are you having, do you have trouble with the Prismacolor white? Like showing up on the paper or getting good coverage with it or something like that? Because that'd be news to me. I've never had any issues with the coverage or anything with the Prismacolor white. Now the Polychromos white, that's another story. That pencil is almost a colorless blender. That's all right, Jewel. It's better late than never. Good to see ya. Yeah, I'll probably be calling it a day here in a couple minutes. I think what I'll do is I'll use some solvent to just blend this lower section of my shirt. And then tomorrow I'll just take a break from working on the shirt and work on the background like one last time. So let me grab my solvent here. Let's see how nice these colors look down here. And then what I'll do is I'll use my gray. I'll wait for it to dry and I'll use my gray to do a little bit of the highlighting and retouching to brighten up those highlights again, since I kind of covered them up a lot. Oh yeah, that's super smooth. This drawing might just turn out. You know, I think I had a question in a comment about like patience. I think the question was something like, you know, I might even be able to look it up really quick. So let me check, see if I can find the question. Do I ever get impatient to finish a piece, and if so, how do I combat the urge to rush? That's a really good question. You know, I'm always talking about patience and like, you know, maintaining a certain level of patience while you're working, because it's those times where you lose patience and you feel like you can rush through something that you end up making a mistake that's not correctable, and it always will show through in the finished piece. I think, you know, if you start to feel the urge of rushing, I think what you need to do is put your pencil down and either take, you know, a 5-10 minute break, get something to drink, get something to snack on, or, you know, at least stop working on it for 10 to 15 seconds. Take a couple deep breaths and ask yourself, how much do you want this picture to look really good? Do you want it to be your best work? Because if you want it to be your best work, you have to slow down. So if you can find yourself in those moments where you're getting ready to like start rushing too much, and if you can stop yourself even for 10 or 15 seconds and just ask yourself that simple question, how good do I want this? How important is it that this drawing, painting, project, whatever it is a representation of my best work? Because that's the hardest thing to create, is a representation of your best. Because how many times have you completed something and then at the end you say, you know what, this is not my best work, because I know it's not, because during this time when I was working on this spot, I was rushing, I was not taking my time, and I felt like I just wanted to get it done. You know, when you start to feel like you just want to get it done, you're not enjoying what you're doing. Okay? Because when you're enjoying something, you're not thinking, how can I get this to go faster? Like, how can I get past it faster? You know, there's always that saying, time flies when you're having fun. And that's because you're not thinking about time. You're in the moment, you're having fun, you're enjoying it, and you want it to last forever. Well, I like art and I create art not to make money, but because I enjoy it and I have fun with it. There are countless times that I lose patience and I kind of rush through things, but I'm also self-aware of that, and so I can stop myself and I can slow down and I can be like, you know what, this in order for this to look the way that I want it, I have to take my time. I have to spend more time on it, and just in order for it to look right. So that would be the answer to that question. As patient as I may come across in my live streams, my videos, and tutorials, whatever it is that you see me in, I still lose my patience. I still rush on projects and try to get things done quicker, and because to be honest with you, there's some projects that I actually just don't care about. But then there's other projects that I really like. For instance, this one. I like this project, and I want this to be a representation of my best work. So, I'm spending an entire month on it. Before, before I can call this done, minimal, I would have spent 31 hours on it. But we know that I've spent more than that on it, because some of my live streams are 2 hours long of me working on it. So at the very least, I would have spent an hour a day on this for an entire month, at the very least. I was worried in the beginning. I was definitely worried in the beginning that I was not going to get this done in a month, but now I feel very confident, and I think I can just keep this pace that I have, and it will turn out exactly the way that I imagined it would. Oh, thank you, Micah. All right, so now you can see with that, those extra layers on this part of my shirt, you can see just how drastically different this part is in comparison to this part. Like this is what it should look like if you spent the right amount of time. This is what it would look like if you lost your patience and you rushed. So sometimes you just need that one more layer, and you can see the difference that it makes. Now I can use my gray. This is dry now, so I can use my gray to start bringing out some of the highlights. I'm using a very, very light touch. Very, very light touch. It doesn't take any pressure at all. And this is more of a glazing stage. So you shouldn't see any pencil grain because you're using a very light touch and because everything is so smooth. So just super, super light with the pencil and letting the color slowly build up. You can start to see that highlight showing up a bit more there. And then you can do it in the opposite direction. So I'll do the same thing but with black. I'll lighten this area up here. add that highlight. And then I'm going to use my polychromos black. The polychromos colors are actually the better choice when it comes to adding the glazing, because the polychromos pencils are much more translucent than the luminance and Prismacolor. So I'm going to add some black up to the shadow up here underneath my hand. And then add some more to the shadow that curves down here. Let me put the lid on that before I spill it all over the place. So this shadow here, just very, very lightly, slowly build up that black. And you can start to see the shadow just slowly gets deeper and darker. And if you do get a little bit of pencil grain, I didn't dip my brush in any solvent. It's still a little damp, so I'll just smooth out that black a little bit. And you can just really gently smooth the colors with a dry brush. And let's add a little bit more shadow over here. And so what I'll be doing is, I'll be recoloring the entire shirt just like this with more layer. I'll smooth it out with my solvent, which will leave me this really good foundation to start glazing my colors over top of, like the black and the light gray here, to start pulling out some of those shadows and highlights. And then once I have all of the shadows and highlights in, and my shirt is essentially done, I will take my green and red colors, and in the shadows I'll just start adding green into the shadows very subtly. Now the green, I won't want to add it to the darkest part of the shadow because the green is a lighter value, so inevitably it will lighten the darkest shadows. So it will be more along the transition, kind of like here where the shadow stops and the gray begins. So I'll add like a bit of green there, and it will give my shirt a toned green look in the shadows. And then in the highlights, where the highlights transition, I'll start adding in a little bit of red. So now you probably can't see it on the camera, but there's a very subtle red near the highlight, very subtle green near the shadow. And that's how I'm going to bring the complements into me. So I'm going to make the background become more of the colors that I am. And that's how you play with those color balances to fit your subject into the background, into the scene that you create. But yeah, that is it for today. Actually, I am all done for today. So tomorrow I'll be working on the background. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I hope you liked today's live stream. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you want to learn more from me, be sure to join me over on my Patreon page. I do live tutorials every Tuesdays and Thursdays, both pastels and colored pencils. I have a link for that in the description. But yeah, other than that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Take care. Peace.